All right.
Okay. Welcome to Morning Musings, the show where we take apart the human experience like two sweaty mechanics, staring into the engine of a pickup truck.
So I'm Kathryn, and this is my friend Dominique. She's going to be sitting in with us on this
Thank you
one.
for being
And
here, Dominique. And I'm Rachel.
yes, and we're life coaches. And every week we're exploring why humans do the things we do, from people pleasing and overthinking to boundaries, burnout, relationships, and all the strange little ways we accidentally make life harder than it needs to be.
We will talk about what's happening to our bodies and ourselves when these things are taking place, why it's happening, and a few practical things steps that you can take or actions that you can take to help yourself through these moments.
Yep. So grab your coffee and let's get curious because today we are going to get into a very interesting discussion that comes up a lot with our clients. And that is the idea of, but what if they get mad? And a great opening question is for this, I feel like, is have you ever worked harder to avoid someone's anger than they worked to manage it?
Absolutely. I mean, we all, I think we all have.
We
I
all
think it's
have.
yeah, yeah. I think, what I call that, and especially when I'm working with people who are having a difficulty setting boundaries. And again, one of the things you and I discussed was revisiting, well, what is a boundary? A boundary is something that we set that actually is for us. It determines what our behavior is going to be. It is not about rules. A rule is something that we attempt to do to control the behavior of others, which of course is
So,
generally impossible.
yeah, so like in this case, it would be you're not allowed to get angry.
Yeah,
Like,
don't in this case, I'm gonna say I can't do this thing, and you can't get angry, and then if or you can't get frustrated.
yeah,
Um, And then if you do, then old habits come into play, and we overperform in the relationship because the anger at the boundary setting makes us uncomfortable.
uncomfortable,
We're
uncomfortable.
responsible,
Yeah,
for that. So
yeah, yeah. So I know, like, for me, I've had personal experience of whenever I have set a boundary. Like, for example, if you talk to me like this, then I'm not going to continue the conversation. I'm going to walk out and I'll come back to it when you can talk to me rationally. And it immediately launched into, oh, well, you just don't care about my pain. You don't want to hear anything I have to say, and you're just going to shut me down every time like this. And so a little bit of the guilt trippy, but then for me as a recovering chronic people pleaser, hi, my
mhm.
name is Kathryn.
Yes.
Then it really triggered that, oh, they're like really angry about this and they really just want to express themselves and stuff. And it's you definitely don't want to ever have to shut somebody down. You want to hear their side of
Mhm.
things, but at the same time, them being angry is not your responsibility. It
Right.
is
Well, and
impossible.
we should allow people to have their feelings. And so I think this is where somebody who is a chronic people pleaser, and this is why the task is difficult to get. And I've also been and still am. I still struggle with this. But we often talk about chronic people pleasers like somehow this is a good thing. Like people love people pleasers because they're always moving to
Make
it seems
things
like serve
better.
and please people. You guys, excuse me, my allergies are bad.
Yeah,
Um,
us
but
people pleasers don't like people being unhappy. I
exactly.
mean, depending on our background and everything, that's really what it boils down to is that when we walk into a room, we want all of the feelings to be pleasant. And we
Yes.
are master manipulators at getting that mood to shift into that.
Yes.
But there's times when you can't. It doesn't matter how good you are at it,
Mhm.
you can't get the mood to shift. And it so often ends up trapping you into a relationship where you have to jump through so many hoops, especially somebody who is not managing their emotions and their mood. You have to jump through so many hoops constantly, all the time. The bar is getting raised all the time, where you are having to do so much more and so much extra to keep them happy.
Yes. Well, and it's not an attractive quality for us either, because you use the word, and I think it's very accurate, manipulate. So,
Yeah.
what we're doing is we're essentially saying how you feel is not okay. It makes me uncomfortable. So, you must change how you feel. So,
Yeah.
it's also very manipulative on top of being incredibly labor intensive.
Oh,
So what's happening is like what you said is then you become responsible for the management of all of these people's emotions or somebody else's emotions. And
yeah.
it's as if you're saying you don't know how to manage your emotion. You just don't understand that you need to feel happy about this. And then we over explain. We try to get people to really understand our position. So we're over explaining. We're trying to manipulate and cajole and pillow fluff these people into thinking and seeing our point.
Yeah.
The,
And
the thing
all
is,
because we are uncomfortable with
because we
their
are
feelings.
uncomfortable, because they're feeling a way, a certain kind of way that we don't like. So I think that this leads us to something that I've been working in for the last 2 weeks, and that is I've really kind of decided that most malfunctioning, most even a good portion of certain mental disorders, including that are highly that have an element of nurture, nurture rather than nature. So in other words, I wouldn't count bipolar in this, but other ones, borderline personality, narcissistic personality disorder, those kinds of things. I think
Hmm.
that those and then just dysfunction, chronic people pleasing, addictions. And of
Yeah,
course, you know that I think people pleasing is one of the worst addictions there are out there. And I think that actually people pleasing is a foundational addiction
I
that
think
creates
so.
the need for other chemicals to numb
Yeah,
because we're so tuned outward. But I think all of those disabilities, all of those dysfunctions are a replacement for being willing to sit in discomfort and pain and see what it's here to teach us,
yeah,
because it is here to teach us something. And it's trying to tell us that we need to grow and we need to be able to be, and we have to sit with that pain long enough to say, what am I supposed to learn here? And each of us goes through different levels, where we grow and then God asks us to level up, you know, and
hmm,
so something happens in our life and we're asked to level up. And so I always call them growth plates. I'm in a certain growth plate right now where I'm being asked to level up. And so I'm sitting in some pain from old coping stuff years and years ago that really impacted somebody in my life. And I'm just every day waking up saying, "What are you here to teach me?" And it's teaching me a lot. It's teaching me a lot about um, needing to let go of people's where their feelings and where they are, and not try to control it because of fear. Fear is a
right.
big one, especially when you're dealing with family members who you love. They need to be able to have their feelings and process their feelings in their own time frame.
Yes,
And
yeah,
so that's painful. And so often the temptation is we want to close that gap. It may seem
mhm,
like, I just want to get this, I just want to talk about this, I just want
yeah,
to have an understanding. And that's all about us. It's
yeah.
not allowing the person the distance and the time to actually get their head wrapped around something.
Right. And depending on whether we are anxious or avoidant, we will respond to that discomfort differently. So, like, I'm more of an avoidant. So, if I'm like, ooh, I don't know how they feel about that, or I don't like the vibe I'm getting off of them, or, you know, or I'm having a hard time managing their emotions as I am wont to do as a people pleaser, then I avoid. I like distance myself, I pull away, I go to a corner and try to pretend like it doesn't exist. And then you get the anxious people that come in and they're like, talk to me, tell me more. I want to know more. You got to tell me, like, what we got to talk this through. We got to figure it out and everything. And in both cases, we're treating that uncertainty and that discomfort like an emergency. Like
Yes.
we have to, like it's an open bleeding wound that we have to wrap
Yes.
up and take care of, and it's not. It's
Yeah.
not.
Good point.
Sometimes it's the antibacterial ointment that we're putting on it
And
and
it
taking care of
stings.
it, and it stings.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. Good
yeah.
point. Good point. Very good point. Dominique, I'm interested if you have any questions. So if you have some, let us know.
I'd never thought about that last point of because I know a few people pleasers in my life, and I'm listening to some different ways that that could surface in my life. People I've been around a long time, I might be more avoidant to be like, well, I'll just avoid that because we've got something established, we're good. If
The
I'm in a
status quo.
Right, if I've entered a new room and I'm like a whole bunch of new people, I'm ready for the tension and I'm ready for the confrontation. It's totally fine. I feel like, oh yeah, we're gonna ride this one. It's gonna be fun. But I never thought about the people pleasers in my life. Instead of telling them just chill already, I can recognize they're thinking it's an emergency because for
Mm-hmm.
their nervous systems, that's what it's doing. So if I can
Mm-hmm.
just respond with, I see where you're at, and I really don't feel like this is an emergency. If I can just say certain phrases that might tell them this is a good, uncomfortable, temporary situation. We're gonna get to the end of
Yes.
the day.
Yeah.
I'm
Good.
here with you for the ride, and then let them respond. I think that's a really good strategy on my part, not to be so impatient with someone who's got a different
Panicked.
system than me.
Yeah, yeah, because it does feel like, I mean, our nervous systems are ancient. They come from, way a long time ago when we were, they're a part of our human experience, and they haven't really, the nervous system hasn't really evolved that much. It doesn't understand that these things aren't saber-toothed tigers. It
Right.
thinks, or it creates a situation in which our body thinks we are in a fight for our life. And that's what the nervous system is telling the body. And so it naturally, then they get pretty wound up. And I'm, by the way, one of them. I must survive. I must survive. And I have to remind myself, this is not life threatening. This is
Right.
just threatening my emotions. I'm feeling a lot of different things. I'm having to move into a different stage in my life, as in lots of ways, as the way that I associate with loved ones, and I'm not their caretaker. I somehow I miss that. I,
Yeah.
I miss that.
And even with children, like even my 6-year-old, like her emotions are hers. And while I'm her mother, I'm there to teach her how to manage that. I am not supposed to do it for her, and I'm not supposed to shut her down. Or, whenever I get uncomfortable, and so many parents, when we get uncomfortable, there's that classic saying of stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about.
Oh, yes.
And
Ooh,
it's kind of
ouch.
that, yeah, it's that. And now in gentle parenting world, so many people are like, shh, no, it's okay, like here, I'll give you something. And again, it's coming from the same place of that discomfort. Your emotions are making me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And even with kids, it's we need to learn to take that moment to just sit down, let them have their big feels,
Mm-hmm.
and go, okay, life has to move on. So we're going to do this now. We're still going to go through the grocery store and you're still not going to get the ice cream. But I recognize you're going to be upset about it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it's temporary and we will move on. We will continue our shopping trip and we will move on. And
Absolutely.
that was the point for me where I really started kind of coming out of that, is recognizing, because I definitely didn't want to shut my daughter down, but then
Sure.
I wanted to help her learn how to handle that in healthy ways. And that's where I really started learning how to be okay sitting in that discomfort.
Yeah.
And
Great point. Great point from that
it's
perspective
still,
too.
yeah, it's still super hard. Like, not so hard with her, but whenever I get around all of the grown children of the world that are running loose.
You're still
Yeah.
evolving.
Yes, exactly. And learning to be, and I think especially as a woman, there is an extra fear factor in there. Like if somebody's emotions get out of hand, I'm a little bitty 5 foot woman. And so there's a little bit of that fear where it's like, well, what if it gets too out of control or
Mhm.
something? And it's like, it's still not my job to manage them.
Ooh, that. What it sounds like to me, what you're saying is, what you're both saying is, let me identify in the moment what I am responsible for, and
Mhm.
why do I believe that?
Right.
And is that really true? And like you're
Yes.
really thinking through the baby steps of conscious language is what I'm
Right.
hearing.
Yes.
And that's fun.
Yes. Yes. I
Need more of
think
that.
the word you just said is strong. Conscious language, where we are not living in a belief that is an unconscious belief
Mhm.
about our worth and value and where that comes from. Because oftentimes we haven't, that drives this lack of boundaries is this unconscious belief that creates a filter through which and we see everything as we look out and everything comes to us. And so
Yeah.
we're seeing it through that filter. Nobody doesn't have that. And so our perceptions and our perspectives can limit what is really happening. That's why, by the way, you'll have a car accident and if you have six different people who saw the car accident, you have six different people who saw six different things.
Right.
That's
Yes.
why they've learned, that eyewitness accounts can be not very reliable because everyone is seeing them through a certain perspective. And that is true when it comes to boundary setting. So ultimately, what you said, Dominique, I think is important, and that is the question really then becomes: am I responsible for this person's emotions? Am I the general manager of the universe or not?
Right. Hello, reality check, ego check, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something a handout that I give to a lot of my clients. I was going to see if I could pull it up here and like show it on the screen is the circle of control. And let me
Nice.
see if I can share this on the screen. Bum, bum,
I'm sure my
bum.
husband's like, yes, see that one.
Well, you need to see
Yeah.
that one. So, the circle of control is you can draw out 3 circles, and if you want to simplify it, if you're a super simple person, you can keep it down to two. But the 3 circles of
Nice.
control are what is in your direct control. These are the things that you control, and I can email it to you. And that's your words, your actions, your attitude, how much effort you put into something, how you react or respond, and your choices, your habits, how you spend your time. Um, and then there's the circle of influence. These are things that you can influence but not control. And this is where, like, me with my 6-year-old, I can influence her. I really
Mhm.
can't control her. I can control
Mhm.
her environment because, my house, my rules kind of thing. But that's where you can influence building trust, influence your relationships, the team dynamics, your workplace culture, how you are teaching and learning from others. You can influence that. And then there's the third circle that is stuff completely outside of my control. I cannot control it. That stuff, obviously like the weather, the traffic, politics, but then other people's choices, their feelings, their opinions, the
Mhm.
past, the future, how
Right.
things turn out, the outcomes.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and that's where I find it's really helpful for a lot of my clients if they have that visual. You have the green circle, yellow circle, and the red circle. So which circle does this fall into? And
Yeah, that's a great visual, and I love visuals because people learn in a visual way. So,
yeah,
yeah,
us humans are very visual.
And I do think then, giving them an active, even, it's almost like it's a card they need to carry around, or we need to carry around. It's easy to immediately go in. Dominique, you made a point earlier, and I was thinking about it. You go into a room and you start feeling the temperature of the room, that suggests you maybe are an anxiously attached person a little bit, or you learned you might not be anxiously attached. You actually may be an avoidant too. I think one of the things, let's talk about real quickly so that people understand when we're talking about anxious attachment and
I was gonna
avoidance
ask, yeah,
Yeah.
could you go into that
is,
one?
Yeah, we're
Before I
one.
agree.
yeah,
Yeah.
is that because I'm what we call disorganized, which is a split between anxious and avoidant, and it's a very difficult split because the person is split. But this comes from your earliest years. It happens between the ages of 0 and 2. And we learn our styles, or we learn how to attach from our parents. This is just attachment. It's not love. And so oftentimes people get attachment and love mixed up. Attachment, if you're anxiously attached, it means that there were some attachment wounds, that maybe a primary caretaker wasn't emotionally available, or like what you suggested earlier, was the kind of person who said, don't have your feelings. I'm going to give you something to cry about because this is making me uncomfortable. And instead of teaching you how to manage your emotions with some good, solid guidance at 2 years old or 3 years old, I'm going to make you push you down for my comfort. And this happens very quickly.
Yeah.
So you don't really exist. Your feelings don't matter at all. And I'm not going to teach you how to do that because what's most important is I'm uncomfortable. You're embarrassing me.
I can think of some memories that were done to me, and I can think of some memories that I did as a new parent for
Oh,
sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
none of us are getting out of this parenting game
unscathed,
unscathed.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, definitely. And definitely the resulting conversations, because I think for a while there afterwards, I really didn't know how to respond to, okay, I did an oopsie. It's definitely not what I wanted or intended to do, but I definitely created, my the things that were in my direct control. My green light was
mhm,
not handled well. So
right.
where to go from here? And that's where I found counseling really helpful.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
took a long time to find one that was a good match for me. So if someone's
Oh,
there
yes.
going, I need like to feed
Yeah.
five more people. It took me 5 times before I found some
Yes, and
that
good.
helped.
Another great point is that, just because we're coaches, one of the things I do is I offer a 15-minute, and actually like their first session often is free because it's a way
Relax.
for people to understand if they are a fit with me. Not
Right.
everybody is a fit with me.
I
I
agree.
can refer them on. This is not about my ego. I have learned that I just recently, in a couple of cases, referred somebody to somebody that was going to I just sensed they needed, in a couple of cases, it was men who I really felt needed a good male coach who was going to be able to lead them in the ways and also connect with them in the ways that men connect.
Hmm.
But again, it's all about boundaries. It's that in and of itself is about boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just talking about that with business yesterday. There's people that I've referred out of my organization and just said, I think you would do better in this community over here because you're connected there. So they'll ask, like, can I sign up with you? And you're, selling business. And I was like, I'd love you to have you. I'm not turning you away. Why don't you stick with that person first and try this conversation? And if that doesn't work, I'll bring you in. I just think that's a better fit for you because that's your niche, that's your passion.
Right.
They're there. And I loved that that's the community that we have. And I
Oh,
feel that you're
absolutely.
doing that with therapy. And I wish more people were practiced in that when I was first looking at therapy. Because I
Hmm.
think that would have just really helped. But would have, could have, should have. It's okay. I can just recognize that's the value of it is doing what you're doing. 15 minutes free. Are we a good fit? Boy, was I
Yeah.
really careful when I first walked into the one that was right for me. And she gave me an hour and 45 minutes of just
Yes.
gonna focus.
And that's what, as coaches, that's what we should be doing. The goal, look, coaching is, I'm not having these relationships. The very nature of coaching is about boundaries. It is about accountability. I would say boundaries and accountability are the very nature of the type of work we do with people. we are not having patients who are coming to us because we don't have patients. We have clients. We are like basketball coaches who are there for people who want to learn to play basketball.
Mm.
And if and we do encounter some resistance, but it's resistance they don't know they have. So
Okay.
we're there to help them help them understand their own resistance to pain, by the way,
Yeah.
because growth is pain.
Yeah.
And and
And
so
discomfort. Like,
yeah.
if you think of it like that, whenever you have kids on the football team, the baseball team, whatever, coaching, kids, well, humans, period, doesn't matter their age, don't like the discomfort of stretching the muscles, building the muscles, the
Mm-hmm.
sweat, the
Yep.
exhaustion.
Do it again, lap.
Yeah, the do it again lap. And, they don't like it, but it's building them, it's making them better. Physical therapy is an excellent example. Like,
Yes.
physical therapists feel like they get called mean all the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because to help your body heal, you have to
Mm-hmm.
go through that
Mm-hmm.
discomfort.
Yes.
And
Or
it's,
to get what you want.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I'm getting ready to hike in Colorado, hike the Colorado Trail. Guess how much pain I'm putting myself through every day so that I can have what I want, so that I
Yeah.
can, and it's a worthy goal. It's a good, healthy goal, but it's going to require that I show up in a way for myself every day. If what you want is a good, solid, well-boundaried, responsible relationship, then we have to sit in some pain. The one thing I wanted to add to your wonderful chart that you held up is
Yeah.
not only what is in your control. Underneath it, it might need to say, what is your responsibility? Because I
Mm-hmm.
think that understanding what is in our control is important, but people who are people pleasers
We'll
often
control too much
believe
anyway. We just believe we do
that
control
these
that.
things
Yeah.
are our responsibility, that
Mm-hmm.
we keep taking the responsibility of these things. And letting go requires that we understand what is and is not our responsibility, not just in our control, because even though it's not in our control, there's that temptation. No, but I can pillow fluff this into being. You
Right, right. Yes. Yes. Like, well, if they, if he is unhappy, then, it's my job as his wife to make him happy. I mean, that's
know?
a
Right.
that's a chronic issue in the
Oof.
Bible Belt.
Oof. Yeah.
And I mean, for a lot of people in a lot of different
Mm.
cultures. And and we're seeing that with like parents with kids now. So
Miko syndrome.
yeah, the Miho syndrome. Exactly. Where it's like Miho wouldn't do that. And it's like, but he did. So,
Yeah. Yes.
um, it's a human struggle that we deal with. And so we're about to run out of time, but
Yep.
I
I
wanted
saw
to
that.
like at least give everyone, so if you're having that moment of discomfort, if you're in that moment of, oh, I don't know what they're thinking, I don't know what's going on, I sense the vibe is off, like what is a practical thing that they can do to kind of recenter themselves and start asking these questions? Because you never think about asking these questions whenever your nervous system goes into emergency
You're
mode.
in it. I think, it requires a lot. One of the things it requires is for you to recognize in your body what you're feeling. So that takes some practice. And so when you'll start knowing when you're in a space where you're doing this,
Just
and
do it
what
with the
it
couch.
looks like and feels like to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then taking that pause, um,
Like,
taking that pause, even if it's just not necessarily committing. So, like, I mean, I think when we're talking about boundaries, we're talking about 12 dozen cookies. I always
right.
use that. It's like, hey, Rachel, because I'm such a people pleaser. Hey, we need these 12 dozen cookies for the bake sale at the school, la, la, la. Um, and because I have a tendency to overcommit, and then, by the way, fail at delivering. So that, this is what we do,
Yeah.
is to take a moment and say, you know what? I don't have my calendar in front of me. That gives me that moment.
Mhm.
Um,
First
so
responders
that's
do this
one of
before they
those
rush
things.
in.
Also, if
Yes.
it's an emotional thing, if it's somebody who says, you know, you're making me feel like da 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 da, whatever it is, you're making me feel like I failed you. Um,
Yeah,
and
you're
just
making me unhappy.
you're making me unhappy. You're making me feel like whatever. One good way to say it is, it certainly isn't my intent to make you feel anything.
Hmm.
But I'll tell you what, right now I have a call coming in. I'm going to call you back in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And let's talk about this.
Yeah.
But give yourself, and I know that may seem like a little bit of a fib, but the thing is, you
Give
need some
yourself the
space.
space.
Yeah.
Give
You need
yourself
some
the
space.
space
You
to
speak up
step
for you.
away
Mhm.
and not
Yeah.
commit with a yes or no right away. So
Yes. In the
that,
military, we call that a block and redirect.
yes.
You know,
Exactly.
but I think that one of the things that we have to recognize as people pleasers is that we have a tendency to hurry ourselves. We're constantly in this hurry up and please hurry up and keep things calm and
We
keep
make
things all the
everything
way.
an emergency. I have to
Yes,
figure this out
everything's
right now.
that emergency.
Or
And
else.
so, like, yes, exactly, just what happened just now. So what we end up doing, is doing that to ourselves. So I think giving ourselves that pause, giving ourselves that moment, whatever it takes to do that. Hey, you know, let me call you back. I've got a call coming in that I need to answer. And that's not necessarily untrue, because the call coming in is, God is calling and he's saying, hang on a minute, let's have a productive,
Yeah, let's have a
communication.
conversation about this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
take a breather.
exactly.
I'll be right
Before,
back.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And
And
then I
it is
have a
perfectly
tendency.
okay to be honest with people and say, let me think about that.
Yeah.
So I had a friend that she had a spinner ring that she would have like on her first finger that she could spin with her thumb, and she'd spin it 3 times before she responded. And she would spin it 3 times so that she had that pause, and then she'd say, "Let me get back with you on that." So she would still, not commit, but then she would write it down in her planner or whatever and make sure that she did get back with that person so that she didn't
Yeah.
fall into that I'm going to avoid responsibility
Yes.
and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
then she'd have that conversation, that uncomfortable conversation with herself on, is this something I can do? Is this something I want to do?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
if not, if either one of those is a no, I'm going to call them back and I'm going to tell them, hey, I can't do that. I've
Yeah.
checked my schedule and stuff, and I can't commit to that.
Yes.
So,
Eventually, we'll all be able to do the Victoria Caldwell, who's my sister, boundary setting princess that she is, who says, I'm sorry, I won't be able to do that. And she doesn't seem to have any discomfort, but she had to practice a long time.
I was just
She,
going to ask, how do you practice that new habit forming response? Because it did take me a hot minute. I had to have it on my phone because I would forget, like you said, you're in the moment, you're hijacked, you're just like, oh my gosh. I
yes,
think it took me a while. I really had to practice, and I had to have people in my
yes.
life that allowed that practice and reminded me to practice. So what worked for you guys? Was it like, before I go to bed, I'm going to say these words out loud? No, I do not need do that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think some of it is trusting yourself to show up, but giving yourself some language that you're comfortable with. So for me, the language I was comfortable with was, I thank you for asking or including me in that, even if it was the 12 dozen cookies, because let me tell you, it didn't, but it was, thank you for including me in that. I wish I could. My plate is full.
mm-hmm.
And so I started with that. Now it's more, I'm not going to be able to do that. But what I can do, and I've learned this from my sister. My sister is like a 50-year real estate professional. And so she knew that she had to practice boundaries a lot because of the way we were raised and what happened in our life. But she practiced it very well. And she says, when somebody calls and says, hey, can I see the house on whatever street? at 1:30, even if she can show it, this is her practice, even if she can show it at 1:30, she says, I won't be able to do that, but I can do it at 2 and 2 or 2:15. What is happening is she's reminding herself every single day that she's responsible for what she allows and who she allows to have access to her. And she is also putting the burden of decision making back onto the person who is asking for the thing, and they get to choose. And what that does, when they get to choose, then it slings that ball back into their court and they make a choice. So they're the owner of then that choice, and it becomes their choice instead of highlighting the fact that she's not going to do it at 1:30, where a lot of people might get stuck
Yeah.
in that
It just
refusal.
stops at the
This gives them another choice, another thing to do with their brain so that they make a choice, and they again got to make a choice.
yeah.
And so it's very good. So I go into things with a couple of things that I can do. No, I can't make the 12 dozen cookies, but if I want to participate, I will say, but I can show up the day that we're going to deliver them,
Yeah.
or I can show up for an hour. It depends. I give myself time to ask, how much involvement do I want to have?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
again, it's that movement of making some space for yourself to make good choices for you and what you're trying to do, so
Yes.
that you're not getting into mission creep with your entire life. In the military, we call things that are added from the side mission creep. And if you ever saw the movie Saving Private Ryan, that was the whole movie was about mission creep. I mean, the Tom Hanks character was literally had a mission, and that was to save that soldier whose brothers had already died in the war. But what happened? On the way to go find this guy and save him, all these battles that he was walking his team into needed them very badly. He did those things. He helped out as much as he could, but he never lost the real focus of his mission, which was to save Private Ryan. And so in our lives, especially as people pleasers and people who have a hard time setting boundaries, what happens is our life becomes this entire idea of mission creep. And before
Yeah.
we know it, we're doing everything.
We're doing everything and we're completely overwhelmed, and it's not our responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's a great way to kind of practice that and put that in practically, where just find some place in your life. I love the Victoria Caldwell, and
Yeah.
just find some place in your life to say, I can't do that, but I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
it's a great way to not shut the conversation down, but to move it forward
Mm-hmm.
in a way that is sustainable for you and give the other person some responsibility there.
Exactly. I think that word is great that you use, responsibility.
Okay.
It shifts that responsibility burden completely off of you and back onto the person who, by the way, wants something.
Yeah.
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 So,
Yeah.
So I'm writing this down. I'm gonna rip it off and put it on my bathroom mirror. And I'm gonna wake up
Good.
seeing it. And after about 3 months, it'll have changed my language. And I'll be, okay, this is how I'm gonna respond to everything. And it
Yes.
might change, right? Like you said, your responses have changed over time as um you found your space and you found what's working for you in good conscious language, and you're more comfortable in a reflexive way. What is your responsibility? And so
Yes.
I just
Yeah.
know this is how I'm going to start. And I think it'll be
Great. Well, you'll have to
Yeah.
tell us, and thank you so much, Dominique, for joining today. We love it. We want more involvement. We're talking about how to allow this kind of in a maybe more of a live session, because we're comfortable with that, letting
Yeah.
people ask difficult questions. And so I am Rachel Van Horn, and I'm a life coach. And I guess I'm going to sign off.
Yeah, yeah, and definitely check the description on the video for our links and stuff. So Rachel has mindhikecoach.com, and you can find her contact information there. And then I'm with okidokilife.wordpress.com, and so those links should be in the video description. And yeah, give us a follow.
Set those boundaries.
Exactly.
You're responsible. You got it. Go
You
get
got
it.
it.
All right, guys.